It's episode 680 of the Locked On Rangers podcast. On today's show, I'm talking about the Rangers announcing their Arizona Fall League rosters, who I thought might be on there, who is on there, and what that says about the Rangers' priorities with them, and a little look ahead at this series with the Angels. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, the founder and host for all 4 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. Today is Tuesday, September 20th. Your Rangers are 63 and 83. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers and subscribe on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment any single thing below. Now, this happened a few days ago, and I hadn't quite had time to catch up to it. But the Rangers announced their Arizona Fall League rosters. Now, this might not seem like anything that's such a significant development, but last year the Rangers had the 2 breakout stars of the Arizona Fall League, and that really kind of dictated who would be the breakout prospects in the upcoming season. Ezekiel Duran was traded by the Yankees to the Rangers and did not have that significant an impact in the regular season. He came to the same level, the same league actually, the Sally League, South Atlantic League, High A. Hickory is where he was, and he just did not have all that much success at that level, but he was named an Arizona League Fall Star. The Rangers took him there. Owen White had only pitched just a little bit that year, but he really came on and just absolutely dominated, shot up in the rankings, and had a fantastic fall. He was named the pitcher of the year for that league, and was an Arizona League Fall Star as well. He was the Rangers' second-round pick in 2018, and he was really the breakout star that the Rangers had pitching-wise this season. I mean, it was not a great start to him in Hickory, but he kind of found his legs, found his footing, and ended up doing very, very well there. He had 81 strikeouts in just 1 out shy of 59 innings. Did have a sub-4 ERA. Had a couple of blow-up starts that kind of inflated that. But once he got to Frisco, he was absolutely fantastic in only 4 starts. I didn't get to see him, which is a real bummer of this season. But he looked fantastic. Only had 1.7 walks per 9, 9.6 strikeouts per 9 in his 4 starts with Frisco, went 21 2/3 innings and a 2.49 ERA at Double-A. He had the best season of any Rangers pitching prospect outside of Cole Reagans, who did get to make his major league debut. That is going to be I'm excited to see him tonight. I'm actually going to be credentialed for the first time this season, first time at the new ballpark, and first time in several years to go out there and see him in person, get some questions with these guys, and have a nice little day of work for the Dallas Morning News out there at the ballpark. Should be a lot of fun, and I'll talk more about that on tomorrow's show, what I saw out there. But this was an indicator, and we saw what Ezekiel Duran did. He, crushed it early on in Double-A. Pretty aggressive assignment, or not that aggressive assignment. The aggressive assignment, I should say, was the promotion to the major leagues, where he thrived and dominated at the big league level, even though he only had a few games under his belt above the single-A level. It was nice to see. He's down back in AAA right now, getting some more reps, learning a few more defensive positions, but overall a really great season for both of those guys, and I think it's really important who these guys are. Now, obviously, the big name is Kumar Rocker. If you hadn't heard by now, it was always assumed that it was going to be Kumar Rocker. That's where he's going to make his professional, I guess, affiliated debut is the better word for it. He did make his professional debut in the 20 innings he pitched when he was not allowed to go back to Vanderbilt after being drafted in that whole saga with the Mets before the Rangers drafted him. So we'll finally get to see some Kumar Rocker, what he looks like. I wish he would have gotten a few more innings under him, but the Rangers wanted to go be extra sure, get some extra tests and whatever, and have him in Arizona and, get some eyes on him before throwing him back out there into the fire. He did have that shoulder injury, and they're still not saying anything about it, and they're probably never going to, and we're never really going to know the full story, because why would we? But, it's fine. I'm ready for Kumar Rocker. He's probably going to end up starting next year in Double-A, depending on how this goes. But this kind of tells you about where they thought he would be. For reference, the Arizona Fall League, everyone can throw a few prospects there. Here's who the Rangers have thrown besides him: Aaron Zavala, Luisangel Acuna, Trevor Hauver, Jace Easley, Cody Freeman, Nick Starr, Grant Wolfram, and Jake Latz. Everyone gets a few of those guys. They get one priority position player and one priority pitcher. Now, I don't know who they designated as their priority position player, but I know their pitcher is Kumar Rocker. So he's going to get the extra treatment. He's going to get more starts. He's going to be in the rotation, yada, yada, yada. He's going to be a priority because it's not just the Rangers teams. It's not just the Rangers prospects that are on these teams. It's like, I don't know, 6, 7 teams that are all in one team. It's quite a few prospects that are all on one single team. It's not like the affiliates where you kind of just pick and choose all 25-year guys or guys in your system. These are, you know, different guys that are at different levels. So everyone gets to choose their players. They get to have one guy who gets to be more important, gets to be more reps in the lineup or more starts or what have you, whatever it means to be a priority player. But the Rangers have a couple of guys who are in their pretty much top 15. Kumar Rocker, Aaron Zavala, Luisangel, Acuna, depending on how you feel about them. Trevor Hauver was knocked all the way off of the top 30 of MLB.com, MLB Pipeline's top 30 Rangers prospects. I thought that was a little curious. Some other guys to look out for, utility player Jace Easley, Cody Freeman, who has been primarily a catcher this year, but he's also played third base and second base. That's kind of interesting. Nick Starr is a right-handed reliever. Grant Wolfram is a left-handed reliever, as is Jake Latz. I think they're finally moving him to the bullpen. It has been a little bit of a rough year for Jake Latz, but you have guys from all kinds of different levels, and it kind of depends on the day what level you would kind of describe this as, but usually I'd say somewhere in between high A and double A is kind of the average. But like we saw, I mean, Jake Latz is a triple A guy, Wolfram is a double A guy, and Starr, I believe, let me double check. Yeah, he has been in Frisco this year. Starr is a guy who's really interesting. There haven't been a whole lot of great relievers in Frisco this year. He has been fairly effective. The strikeout stuff has not been quite as good as it was at the other levels, but he pitched in 3 different levels this year. He pitched in low A with Down East, he pitched in Hickory, and he finished off the season in Frisco. In Frisco, he had a 2.05 ERA in 28 games. 14 of those were games that he finished off. 30 and 2/3 innings, 25 strikeouts, so 7.3 Ks per 9, 2.9 walks per 9. The walks were a little bit higher at the other levels, 3.4 and 3.8, but the strikeouts were also a lot higher, 13.5 and 14 at the low A and high A levels respectively. So just a guy to keep an eye on. I haven't seen him in person. I haven't heard a whole lot about him. He does not have a lot of renown. He was a 19th round pick by the Cincinnati Reds in 2018, but it seems like he never pitched for them, so I don't really know exactly the story of him getting there because there's not a whole lot of minor league transactions on Baseball Reference. But just a guy to keep an eye on. Wolfram is a left-handed reliever out of Holland, Michigan. Was a 18th round pick by the Rangers, and this year he pitched in Frisco for the full season. Not a great year overall. Again, he was one of those relievers who didn't have the greatest of seasons. 4.42 ERA, 71 strikeouts in 57 innings, and 6.8 walks per 9 innings. That's not exactly ideal, but he barely gave up any home runs. Only 3 home runs in those 57 innings. So, you kind of take what you can get. Definitely a guy to keep an eye on. And there's some more that we're going to look into some of these guys and a couple of really great starts to their AA debut for 2 Rangers prospects who got promoted. But first, this episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates everywhere available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. So go add your job to your purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile. Spread the word that you are hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on the candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and to hire. It's why small businesses rank LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs help you find qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Now, I think the most excited everyone is is about this is a fall league is to see Kumar Rocker. Obviously, he is the big prize. He is the Rangers' number 3 overall draft pick this year. Was definitely a mind-boggling pick, but I'm still excited nonetheless to see what he can do, what he looks like against some of these anywhere from high A to double A hitters. This will be the most advanced competition he's faced. He dominated for all of his years at Vanderbilt, and he did fairly well in his short indie ball stint this season. I still, again, would like to see a lot more innings on him because he's going to have a pretty big workload next year. Maybe this was just kind of a dare I say, I dare, uh, unloading. I don't want to use that other word that starts with a D and ends with a load because that triggers some terrible memories. But I do think it's going to be really interesting to see how long his outings are, how much he throws, what kind of repertoire he's using, and if that arm angle change that he was using in the independent league this year is something that sticks, and if he can maintain that really nice velocity and movement on that fastball and the nastiness of that slider with that new arm angle. We didn't see all that much of it from the scouting video, but we'll see how well that sticks, and hopefully he can get well, maybe he can get more than 4 innings. I'm not exactly sure exactly how much he's going to be able to pitch and how long he's going to go when he is doing that. But in the fall league last year, we got 6 starts for Owen White. He went 28 and a third innings. So maybe that's about the bar for what we're going to get out of Kumar Rocker. Again, Owen White had also not pitched a whole lot that season. That's why they're trying to get him some extra reps. He had 35 and a third innings during that regular season, which is 15 more than Kumar Rocker had this year in the independent league. Aaron Zavala is the choice in terms of the Rangers' top outfield prospects. I was a little surprised. I thought it was going to be Dustin Harris because he was shut down for the last, I don't know, 3 weeks or so of the minor league season, and we did not get to see him anymore. It was a wrist injury, so maybe he's not completely 100% healed, and that's why I'm not going to see him, but I thought he could use a few more at-bats. It seemed like Aaron Zavala could definitely use them. He has kind of fallen off since his just ridiculously hot start to his double-A career. He was hitting in like the 320s. Now his batting average is all the way down to 377. The on-base is still super high at 410, but his walks have now been passed by his strikeouts. He was keeping that number in the inverse, which is really, really cool to see. Trevor Hauver is still doing that. He has passed him in OPS. Still, both those guys would like to see just a smidge more power. Their slugging percentage is both under 500. Would like to see it be a little bit higher. Both their on bases are fantastic. Hauver is at 432, and his batting average is 230. I think that might be the kind of guy that he is. He might hit like 240 or so in the big leagues, but if he was a regular, he might have an on base of like 350 or something like that. That is definitely something that you can live with, but I'm encouraged to see what both those guys can do. Maybe Hauver can have a little bit better batted ball luck because it seems like he's hitting the balls fairly hard, but they're just finding defenders. Maybe he'll get some better batted ball luck and the batting average will go up, and that can give him a little more confidence to swing for the fences a little bit more. I'm not exactly sure, but he's definitely one to keep an eye on. Luisangel Acuna has done fairly well for being promoted so aggressively to such a high level. He is 20 years old in Double-A for most of this season, for at least a decent chunk of this season. It had some injuries, so he didn't play all that much this year, but he has still played a fairly full season. It's not like he didn't miss several months of the season, but he could have just played just a little bit more. This year he had 91 games under his belt. 54 of those were at Hickory, where he had exactly 900 OPS. At Double-A, it was a little bit more of a struggle, but he had some pretty competitive at-bats. The overall numbers don't look as impressive, but I was really impressed by the defense. Grant on last week's show talked to him, who is a scout a writer, baseball writer at Baseball Prospectus, and has much more attuned scouting eyes than I do. He put a Rule 5 on it. That means a big league regular. That's encouraging. I had heard mixed reports about him, but he was 4.2 years younger than the average position player in the Texas League this year. So even though he had only 651 OPS during the regular season, which I believe they have just clinched the playoffs, so that is encouraging. We'll see a little bit more of him there, and a little bit more of Evan Carter, and a little bit more of the guy who won the Texas League Player of the Week in his very first league after being promoted to Double-A. We're going to get into all of that a little bit more about the Rangers and a veteran catcher that they are trying to add to their roster for the end of this season. But first, this word from our sponsors. Now, I got to give a big shout out to Thomas Sajacy. Thomas Sajacy is a guy who I did not give nearly enough credit for the kind of season that he has been having so far, but I way overlooked him. He was the Texas Rangers' fifth-round pick in the 2020 draft, which, again, looking like an absolute steal in that 5-round draft. They ended up getting two of these guys who have dominated in their first week in AA. But Thomas Sajacy won the Texas League Player of the Week for a fantastic first 5 games in the Texas League. He hit .381 with an on-base of .402, slugged .857. That is a 1266 OPS in his first week of AA action. And again, he's 20 years old. That is pretty darn impressive. Actually, this is his age 20 season. Yeah, he has been 20 this entire year versus his teammate who is in that same draft who just turned 20 at the end of the season. That is Evan Carter, who's listed at 19, but he just turned 20. Evan Carter had a fantastic first week in AA as well. That first game, he went 0 for 2 with a hit by pitch and a walk. In the next 5 games, he absolutely crushed it. He's got 6 games under his belt at AA, hitting .429 on base of .536, slugging .714. Now, the reason they both had the exact same number of home runs and doubles. Sajacy and Carter both had 1 home run and 3 doubles, but Sajacy got the edge because he had 2 triples in his first 5 games. That is pretty darn impressive. And 5 walks to 6 strikeouts for Evan Carter in that first week in AA. Again, very encouraging stuff by both of these guys. If you don't know much about Sajacy, that's because I have not talked about him nearly enough. He is a second baseman / third baseman / shortstop. He has played all of those positions. He has played mostly second base. This year he played in Hickory. He played 48 games at second base, 31 at third base, and 15 at shortstop. In Frisco, he has 1 at first, 3 at second, and 1 at third. He is not going to play a whole lot of shortstop because, again, Luisangel Acuna is holding that down pretty darn well. But it's nice to see a trio of really talented 20-year-old prospects in AA and, thriving there. Luisangel Acuna's numbers haven't been quite as good, but I imagine that Sajacy's numbers might be around what we were seeing from Acuna. I haven't seen him in person, so I don't know exactly what kind of at-bats he's having, but for the year, he had some really nice numbers in Hickory before getting promoted. He had 14 home runs, 22 doubles, an on-base of .359, slugged .487, had an .846 OPS in 98 games and 419 plate appearances at Hickory. I probably need to bump him up a little higher in my top 30 once I redo that at the end of the season. But again, huge shout out to both of those guys. Now, let's go in a very different direction. A guy who is not a 20-year-old in AA. That's right, it's Kevin Plawecki. He was just designated for assignment by the Boston Red Sox. He is a catcher. He has been in the big leagues for many a moon since 2015. 8 years in the bigs, 444 games under his belt. Now, it might be a little bit underwhelming, but the Rangers have a roster spot they can't add. You might be asking, why aren't they adding more pitchers? Well, they're at the limit for pitchers. They cannot add any more pitchers to the roster, which I think is stupid if you're going to only expand the roster to 28, from 26 to 28 as opposed to the full 40-man, which I kind of get not doing that, but I really liked having the whole 40-man available to play in the majors at the end of the season. That was always a lot of fun to get some really random guys. But the Rangers have an open roster spot because Nick Solak is going on the IL. He was hit in the foot by a pitch. He was in a walking boot in Tampa, and now it seems like he is going to be out for the rest of the season. So the Rangers have a position player spot that they could be giving to, well, there's not a whole lot of other guys that are really going to merit getting just an end of the bench opportunity. The Rangers already do have 2 catchers, and both catchers are going to play fairly regularly, so I'm not exactly sure what they want to get from Kevin Plawecki. Maybe just really, really lighten the load on both those guys, but for every game that Jonah Heim isn't playing, it needs to be Sam Huff behind the dish. I don't really understand this, but there also aren't a whole lot of guys that are in AAA that you would want to call up and just put them at the end of your bench and be okay with them not playing very much. Andy Ibanez is maybe that guy. Other than that, there's not a whole lot of other options. There's no more Zach Rex. There is, well, you could maybe get Shirt Impossible, but you'd probably have to DFA him as well. I don't think he is on the 40 man anymore. And yeah, I think I want to say that Ryan Duro is on the 40, but I'm not entirely sure that that's accurate. So there's really just not a whole lot of options. So it's just like, all right, let's get somebody who is not going to be part of the long term plans and stick them at the end of the bench because we just need some other body on our major league roster. I know you might be saying, why the heck is Ezekiel Duran not going to be the option? Well, they want him to play every day. That's why he's in AAA, is so that he can play every single day. And they're not going to call him up just to put him at the end of the bench. And really, like I said, there's just not a whole lot of other options. I would have liked them to add, well, I don't know. Maybe this is fine. It just depends on his playing time. Really, it's just having a great clubhouse guy. There's a lot of praise for him in Boston, and pretty much everywhere he has gone, he is a universally beloved guy. So, you're not winning a whole lot right now. Might as well just add a really great clubhouse guy to your roster while you've got this extra spot. Or, you could actually just not add anybody. It is a possibility. Just have your roster at 27 players. I don't know. It is an option. I don't know if it's a good one, but it is technically an option. So this was reported by Evan Grant yesterday. It made some waves. People got mad. It's fine. It's the 28th roster spot for the last 3 weeks of a team that is going to miss the playoffs. It's not worth getting mad online about. It's definitely not worth getting mad in real life about. So yeah, that's what's happening there. And, that is all the context you really need on that. Now, let's take a quick look at this series with the Angels. The Rangers have a 3-game series against the Angels coming up. Again, like I said, I will be in attendance for this game on Tuesday night. It will be Mike Myers, not the guy who played the Master in Disguise in Austin Powers and all that nonsense. Not the guy who is the horror villain, but Mike Myers, the pitcher for the Los Angeles of Anaheim of California of United States Angels. He's going to be going up against Cole Reagans. And the second game, we're going to see Patrick Sandoval for the Angels and Dane Dunning for the Rangers. And in the third game, the finale, it's going to be Martin Perez versus TBD at this point. I think it might be Ohtani. I think it might be that time in the rotation that we're going to see a little bit of Shohei Ohtani, which is always fun, but also not fun because Shohei Ohtani is absolutely fantastic. So, yeah, that might not be great. I think Reed Detmers might be the guy. He pitched in the game before Monday, on Sunday's game. So I think it might be Reed Detmers. They're coming in after winning 3 out of 4 against the Mariners at home. They lost the finale to that series 9-1. It was an afternoon game, so they had time to fly in to Texas, and we'll see what all of that looks like. But the Rangers have 2 of their more consistent pitchers. Dane Dunning, I know, does not move the needle a whole lot. And there was something that I did want to mention, was something that Evan Grant wrote yesterday. He did a way too early 2023 opening day roster projection that was, honestly, it was accurate, I think, for the most part. But it was also kind of depressing. Just looking at what's available and what might be there, and still kind of encouraging because the lineup really doesn't need a whole lot, but the starting pitching additions that he had were less than inspiring. He had Cole Reagans in the rotation over Dane Dunning as the number 5. I thought that was a little bit of something that I don't necessarily think is accurate unless Cole Reagans can figure out how to stay in the strike zone. Both those guys, he talked about the walk problems with Dane Dunning and Otto, but Cole Reagan's walk problems have been a whole lot worse. So I don't necessarily know about that. 2 of the guys that he mentioned as potential starting pitchers the Rangers go get were Jamison Tyone, Michael Wacha. They're fine. It's fine. It's fine. He also said that he didn't want to make any hypothetical trades, which, yeah, if I were the Rangers, I really think they are going to make a trade because, again, we'll talk later, probably more towards the offseason when I run out of things to talk about the 40-man roster crunch, but the Rangers have one. They have a lot of kind of fringe guys that they would probably like to protect and that would probably be drafted in the Rule 5 draft. So trading a lot of them to, what is it? Cut down on the quantity and trade that in for quality. Not that the quantity isn't great, but kind of I can't think of the word. I want to say assimilate, but that's not the word. You can probably finish whatever word it means to make the smaller things, put them in order, and whatever. I'm running out of words, which is not a great sign for a professional podcaster, but that was something that I thought was really interesting, and I do think that Dane Dunning is going to be in the rotation. I think he would definitely be more likely to be there than Cole Reagans because Reagans needs to figure out how to throw strikes at the big league level. He did have a start with, I believe, only one walk in his last time out, where he did get lit up by the A's, but that is definitely a problem right now. The Angels, looking back at them, they are out of the playoffs, officially out of the playoffs. Shohei Ohtani will still not make the playoffs this year, and he is still having an otherworldly season as an 8.7 WAR. Oh, and you know who's back just in time to mash the Rangers in a series of 3 games? That's right, it's Mike Trout, who has been just on another level since he got back from that back injury. Glad to see him back in baseball. Would like to see him just play it safe. Just sit out for 3 games against the Rangers. I mean, maybe play tonight so that I can see him in person. That would be kind of cool. But putting in perspective the amount of insanity Mike Trout has been on this season, he's only played in 105 games, and he's got 36 home runs. I believe he's in second place in the American League in home runs, even though he's only played, like I said, 105 games. The guy is just on another level as of late. A 5.4 WAR season at this point. On base of 364, slugging 620, OPS of 984, which is 17 points below his career average of OPS of 1001. This guy has been in the big leagues for a decade, and his career OPS is over 1,000. Over the last 7 days, he is kind of cooled down from the very torrid start. In the last 14, he has 6 home runs. In the last 7 days, he only has 1 home run. I believe it was 3 or 4 straight games that he had a home run in, where he was just on another level once he got back. Over those last 14 days, he has got a OPS of 1118, which is just absurd. Over the last 28 days, which has been since he's come back from the injury, he's got 22 games under his belt and 12 home runs in that span. The last 28 days, which has only played 22 games, he has 12 home runs. So he kind of cooled down just a little bit in that series against the Mariners. Even though they took 3 out of 4, I don't know how that happened, but it did. So we're just going to pass that off as some Shohei Ohtani magic. Let's take a little bit of a look at Shohei Ohtani and his insane numbers. Right now for the season, he's got an 8.7 WAR according to Baseball Reference, hitting 266, 34 home runs, and 891 OPS. And as a pitcher, he has been even better. He has been on another level this year, an all-star yet again. A 2.43 ERA this year. He's already got more starts under his belt and more innings than last year. Last year when he won the MVP, he had 23 starts and a 3.18 ERA in 130 innings and 156 strikeouts. Right now, he has been just insanely consistent this year and just wildly good. Wildly good. Someone, I believe it was at CBS Sports, put out a tweet. I got to go find it. Just comparing his numbers to last year's MVP in Bryce Harper and the Cy Young winner, and both of his numbers for as pitcher and hitter were both comparable. I still think that Judge is going to win the MVP, which, if he breaks the home run record for the Yankees, then okay, fine, which he's probably going to do. If he passes Barry Bonds, then he should definitely get it. But Shohei Ohtani is just on another level right now, and the very fun early season dominance of the right fielder Taylor Ward has kind of faded. He had an OPS in the thousands through the first 2 months and has since fallen way, way off. Has only 18 home runs on the year and a 796 OPS. The rest of the offense has really fallen off a cliff since that early season start. Brandon Marsh is no longer with the team. Joe Adell is playing a little bit more, but it still pretty much is just the Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani show. The Rangers should hopefully be able to take at least a couple of these games and get some confidence back. Just have a nice finish to the end of the season. The Rangers aren't going to finish in the lottery for that #1 overall pick. So just get some wins under your belt. They're already past their win total for last year. See how far they can improve that win total this year. And, who knows? They're already at 1 win more than last year. They still got basically 3 weeks left. So they might end up finishing as many as 10 games above last year, which, if you remember, that was about the goal. We'll see how this series goes. I'm excited to see these two pitchers, these players in person, and I will let you know what it's like inside the media bowels of Globe Life Field in tomorrow's show. Thank y'all so much for listening. Now, for your second listen, go check out the Locked On MLB podcast. Paul Francis Sullivan, please call him Sully. He gives you his unique perspective on Major League Baseball, both past and present. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. Thank y'all so much for listening, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.